Hello and good evening. Welcome to the live reading of chapters 11 and 12 of Underdogs. And it's really nice to be actually reading it in daylight now. Yesterday the clocks went back in, actually went forward in Britain, which means we've got an extra hour of daylight in the evenings. So don't have to rely on the light above me anymore. Anyway, I'm sure you're really interested in that. The discussion question for today is: which books have had the biggest impact on you? And, well, it doesn't strictly say and why, but, well, I'll allow you to comment that as well. And the reason I asked this question is because chapter 12, and trying to keep it completely spoiler-free, but a certain one of my friends was rather impacted by it the first time she read it. She just happened to be wearing a Fitbit while she was reading it, and at the end of the day, she checked her pulse, as in the pulse rate throughout the whole day. And there were 3 times that the pulse went up. There was one when she was working in the garden, one when she was doing the housework. But I think she hit something like 140 beats per minute. Yeah, Judy, you might want to correct me on this one, but 100 and something beats per minute when she was sat down doing nothing but reading Underdogs. And really, I see that as one of the best compliments that the novel has ever had. I mean, people can say words about things, and yeah, often it's genuine, sometimes it's a bit polished, but an actual measurable pulse rate on reading the story, it's difficult to come up with something that's more sincere than that. Anyway, so chapter 11 and 12 are going to be the bits where the story kind of takes off. Because in the last bit it was revealed that, well, Oliver Roth has been released, and he's quite a nasty piece of work who happens to be quite good at his job, despite being a 14-year-old master assassin. And yeah, the villains know that the underdogs are there, and they're beginning to chase them around. One last thing before I begin, which I'll share just because it's funny. There was quite a heartwarming moment a few days ago when, well, a number of teachers thanked me for uploading these videos to YouTube so that they could send it to their class so that their students could follow along while they're at home isolated. I thought that was a really lovely compliment. And an hour or two ago, I got a comment on YouTube which said something to the effect of, "Wow, thanks for this. Really love doing homework on lockdown." And yeah, sorry kids, but equally I'm kind of not sorry, because reading is just awesome. And anyway, if that was you, then hope you don't mind the shout out, and I thank you very much. I'm going to assume it was a sarcastic comment. In fact, I really hope it was a sarcastic comment, because otherwise I'll be turning down a very sincere compliment. But anyway, thank you very much regardless, and I hope that by the time you reach this video you've started really enjoying the book. Anyway, if you have any... Oh, hi Kira. If you have any comments, questions, any answers to the discussion question of what books have had an impact on you, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll catch up with them as we go along. So, chapter 11. Kate's legs complained, but she ran anyway. The 5 minutes walk from the summit of Stairwell 42 had turned into a 2-minute jog, with at least 7 dead clones along the way. They wouldn't have long until their victims failed to check in, and swarms of others would head to their last known location. "Well, that's an anticlimax," Alex gasped in front of her. They slowed to a halt at a door that read New London Clone Factory Alpha Control Room. It was a regular, nondescript door, far from the grandeur Kate would have expected from such an important cog in Grant's machinery. Alex opened the door using a dead clone's keycard. The door was half open by the time Ewan's screams came through the radio. "Guys, abort mission! Get back to the floor Z exit now!" "What's wrong?" asked Kate. "We were found. We got out safe, but there's no way in hell we can finish this today. If we're getting out alive, it has to be now." Alex shrugged and jogged through the door. Kate jammed her foot in the entrance before it closed and locked itself. Is he doing this to undermine Ewan, or just because he likes doing things alone? Or maybe it's to get away from me. Probably all three. "Did you find anything down there?" she asked. "Yeah," said Ewan. "I'll explain on the way home. Now get Alex. He hasn't answered, so I assume he's ignoring me. I'd say good luck, but it's never luck." "You got it," The radio fell silent, and 3 gunshots sounded on the other side of the door. Kate rushed inside. Alex was standing at the front of the Alpha control room, with 3 dead clones on the floor behind him. His eyes avoided the enormous desks and complicated panels before him, and stared out of the front window. Kate ran up to him, had a look for herself, and gasped. The clone factory was below them, spread across what must have been the size of 8 football fields. Not 1 square metre of the floor went to waste. Rows and columns of vertical pods stood upright like airport security scanners, all connected by long cylindrical pipes which fed them whatever chemicals Nathaniel Pierce had designed to be the stuff of life. Each pod was accompanied by its own computer station, all operated by clone soldiers. Clones, growing more clones. Fresh troops were staggering out of the pods, their leg muscles acclimatizing to sudden new life, if it could truly be called life. A load of them, perhaps 60, were seated in a monorail carriage ready to depart. Kate guessed the track would head straight for the training rooms. 4 months was not a long time to live, and they would need readying for active duty within days. Hello, Robert. The view from the control room was spectacular, in the most horrible way. The clones that took Oakenfold were grown here, thought Kate. The clones that captured my family. They walked out of these machines. Alex, she said, to interrupt her own thoughts, it's time to go. Ewan's orders. Yeah, what's he going to do if we disobey him? Plan our funerals. Alex, go. Alex jogged to the exit, dental mirror in hand, and opened the door inwards. Kate did not see what happened as Alex inspected the corridors, but there were gunshots, and he jumped. Bloody hell, they're good, he gasped. Do I get the 7 years bad luck, or do they? What? How many are there? Enough to hit the mirror. Alex launched his telescopic handgun around the doorframe and fired indiscriminately. Beyond the door, Kate saw the beautiful sight of an empty corridor in the other direction, and worked out why the platoon had been so quick to open fire. The control room was not yet surrounded, and they were not yet pinned down. Kate, go first. I'll cover you. What about you? I'll cover myself, duh. Ready on 3. Kate took nervous steps towards the entrance, and took deep breaths while she was still able to. 1, 2, 3, Alex yelled. In the next instant he was half inside the corridor, pumping out bullets, not to hit specific targets, but to force the clones into hiding. Kate seized her chance, tore through the exit, and sheltered herself behind the wall of the vacant corridor. She turned around just in time to see a bullet burrow through Alex's shoulder and pop a bloody exit wound out of his back. Alex flinched and let out a squeal. Kate had never heard him squeal before, and his handgun dropped to the floor. The bullet must have torn through the nerves in his shoulder like a water cannon through a bunch of daffodils. There was no time to reach for his weapon before the next wave of bullets scared him back behind the door. Hello, Zoe. And Egan, if you're watching. Alex locked himself inside the control room. It was a dead end, other than a 3-story fall to the factory floor, but Kate knew he had no other choice. The clones were approaching, a horde of them against Kate's single assault rifle. She could imagine Alex on the other side of the door, grasping a sticky shoulder wound, scanning around for any kind of second exit. Air vents, secret passages, stairways to heaven, anything at all. Except the drop from those windows, which would be even more certain to kill him than the bullets. Kate fired until her ammunition ran out, reached for the next clip, and then remembered the weapon was not her own. She was carrying that rifle from the first clone's dead body, and her own ammunition was incompatible. She was as good as unarmed. Come on, Alex, she yelled in her mind. Your dad forced you through so many taekwondo lessons that you don't know what giving up feels like. If you were the type of person to give up, you'd have died in this war 100 times. But Kate knew Alex's martial arts skills and strength of mind would not last long against automatic weapons. The clones were advancing with confidence, and there was only one thing she could do to avoid dying along with Alex. Kate, with tears in her eyes, turned and ran for the stairwell. New scene, one sip of water. Jack's single-mindedness was as much an advantage as a disadvantage. Remember that he's outside the exit to New London with his handgun against the door, wondering whether to enter or not because, well, Oliver Ross out there. And, hello, Maria. Glad to have you with us, all the way from Argentina. Anyway, Jack's single-mindedness was as much an advantage as a disadvantage. It allowed him to focus relentlessly on any problem as if the rest of the universe were placed on pause. But while he was hyper-focused on one particular task, Someone could almost perform surgery on the back of his head without him noticing. This meant that Ewan's screams through the radio had not registered in his mind, as he had kept his focus on the entrance door. He had been pointing his handgun towards the doorway for somewhere between 5 minutes and 1 hour. Oliver Roth was somewhere between 5 miles and 2 feet away from him. Jack's thoughts buzzed through his head like tortuous little lightning bolts. His helmet pressed down on his brain a little harder each minute. He couldn't satisfy his fingers' need to flick each other. In front of him, the entrance to Floor Z stood in silence. Every survival instinct told him that retreat was the best option, but his loyalty got in the way. By the time his thoughts were exhausted, the mechanical mind of Jack Hopper found only 3 options. Number 1, open the door, run into the citadel, and be trapped in the same chaos as the rest of the group, if he found them. Number 2, open the door, get shot by Oliver Roth and die. Number 3, turn around and run home. Escape was unlikely for the others anyway. Maybe if he fled, the mission's death count would be 4 rather than 5. Jack made his decision. After 11 months in Spitfire's rise, he had built a reputation for himself. When people thought of the word Jack, their first thought was of the geeky young man with a dinosaur obsession, not at all based on me, bizarre sense of humour, and permanently bad hair. But there was more to him than that. Jack was honest, brutally honest, even when it made him unpopular. And he was loyal. Underneath the teenager who understood machines better than people, there was a young man who stood by his principles far better than most others. For all his issues, Jack was a good guy. And good guys didn't run when 4 of their friends needed help. And Maria, at the end of this... actually no, Julie's beating me to it again. Yes, 6 minutes past 11 in the UK. Whatever time it is in Argentina, which you've just posted right now, 2 minutes past 11. Oh, yeah. 4 hours ahead. Anyway. He lowered his aching arms and felt the warmth of blood flowing back into the veins in his hands. His fingers touched the door's entrance bar and leapt off as if from electric shock. Within 10 seconds, he might be dead. If he had made the wrong decision, his existence in the universe would be over. Jack could not bear the thought. He did not fear the inevitability of death. It was stupid to fear something that happened to everyone. But the thought of empty nothingness, an eternity without awareness or consciousness, the thought of no longer existing. It had been all he had wanted during his worst days. But with the bullies gone forever, he had come to realise how horrifying it was. Jack gritted his teeth and pushed against the bar. The door swung half open to reveal Floor Z in all its ominous glory, neither humans nor clones in sight. It was the emptiness Jack had hoped for. His muscles lowered their guard, and he shook his arms and legs to recirculate his blood. But then the door stopped moving. It went from its 2 inches per second glide to an instantaneous stop. Well, this doesn't take a physicist. Jack threw himself against the door like a cannonball and sent it flying into the blockage beneath it. "Guy, you twat!" it screamed. Sorry, kids. Jack's throat twisted itself in knots as the killer teenager fell into view, shotgun and all, and collapsed to the ground. Without a moment to waste on thought, Jack turned on his heels and bolted. Jack had suffered countless dreams of running away from people, and in every dream his legs turned to jelly and forgotten how to run. He had always been caught in his dreams. Every time. Real life was different, but the terror was the same. A hidden reserve of adrenaline propelled Jack towards the next corner, and he reached the junction as a colossal bang sounded from the emergency exit. 100 little shotgun pellets pummeled into the wall a metre to his left. Admiring his good fortune, Jack leapt around the corner and out of range. As soon as Jack believed himself to be safe, rational thoughts returned to him, and he realised that he would never, ever outrun Oliver Roth. Jack Hopper, who had feigned illness through most of his PE lessons and spent his adolescence avoiding exercise like a child avoiding vegetables, would make nothing of his 3-year age advantage. All he could do was hide. Jack dashed around a second corner, slowed to a halt, and grabbed the first door handle he saw. He opened the door with a quiet tug, slipped through, and pushed the door back in place with an almost silent click. Jack perked an eyebrow at the sight before him. He had neither known nor cared what lay on the other side of the door, but the truth surprised him. He was standing in a communal changing room, like those in the gyms he never went to. A row of showers stretched around the corner, open lockers lined the edges of the room, and a single change of clothes had been draped over the sodden bench in the middle. It was a room for clones, of course. Jack imagined a nearby arena for hand-to-hand combat training, treadmills for fitness and endurance, and perhaps weightlifting equipment. Jack's thoughts changed lanes without signalling, and he was hit with a painful realization. Why did I run? I had Oliver Roth on the floor with his shotgun out of his grip. I had a gun in my hand and I legged it. Why the hell did I run? He even fired his second shotgun cartridge at me while I was running. I could have turned around and shot him before he reloaded. Why did I... Fear. Such a simple, irritating answer. Oliver Roth was so terrifying, the retreat always felt like the best option. Even at a rare moment when victory was certain, Jack had not noticed it was possible. Outside the changing room, somebody swore. Jack froze every part of himself, right down to his lungs. After a long moment of silence, Jack heard the assassin's voice. Ian, it's me. Okay, good. He's concentrating on his phone. That's Ian Marshall, right? Ian Marshall being the head of military. You met him yesterday, I think it was? I flushed their guy away from the exit, the voice continued behind the door. They're trapped in the Citadel now. No, he's still alive. Tell me where the others are. Even when I'm safely hidden, you still scare me, Jack thought towards Oliver Roth. Why? Got it. I'll go up there and meet them. Because you killed Beth Foster. You orphaned Thomas by shooting his mum to death. You got Ben Christie with a sniper rifle, and for weeks we didn't even know it was you. Miles Ashford, Tim Carson, Joe Horn. What do you mean not going alone? I'm not having some test tube creatures take my scalps. I've wiped out 7 of this crew already, and today I might get double figures. David and Val Riley, our only married couple. You cornered them when they'd run out of bullets. You threw them a knife and promised you'd make it quick if one of them killed the other. I heard you snorting over David's radio as he handed her the knife and asked her, and you laughed as Val apologised and stabbed her husband of 10 years. How did a boy like you become Grant's head assassin? What the hell will you be like as an adult? Fine, finished Oliver Roth as he started to run, his voice fading as he went. I'll lead a bloody team. Get 30 of them to meet me. Jack breathed a long sigh of relief and glanced around the empty changing room. The owner of the spare change of clothes would return soon, so time was against him on both sides of the door. He took his radio from his belt. The others had to be warned. There you go, nice relaxing chapter 11. So Alex is trapped inside the Clone Factory control room, and well, we don't know what's happened to him. We may not find out for a while, if at all, because that's what combat's like. Meanwhile, their exit has been, well, basically guarded, and the only person guarding it has been chased away. So yeah, things are not looking particularly good. Any questions or comments or anything, leave them now before I start chapter 12. And like I said, it's one that I like. In the meantime, just check notifications. Okay. So, chapter 12. McCormack took another erratic sip of his tea as it rippled through the shaking cup. Simon had frozen on his left, his hands clenched as if in prayer, and a distinct expression that McCormack knew all too well. Simon was scared, and not just because the team's presence had been uncovered. The day's troubles had been an extra layer of worry smoothed over a lifetime of other worries. I never met a youngster with Down syndrome before takeover day, McCormack thought. Even now I'm no expert, but I've seen those eyes in 100 troubled teenagers. McCormack began to ponder. When he looked back on his life and searched for the good bits, plenty enough of them had been in his years as a mathematics lecturer. He had helped young adults leap into the job market with good degrees under their belts. He had guided some through their doctorates, but by far the brightest moments in his life had been outside of his work. He and Barbara had supported so many disaffected youngsters that their friends had jokingly called them foster parents. Barbara had taken the news of her infertility as well as anyone would expect, but in true Barbara style, she had turned it into a positive. Their parental love, reserved for a baby McCormack who never came to be, had been spread over the decades on 100 other young people they had loved. How on earth would she see me now, the leader of teenage rebels with enormous personal issues? Would she congratulate me for adopting them, or scold me for turning them into an army? Would she forgive me for how I spent the 2 years after her death? Would she thank Polly for bringing me back? Or would she be distracted by the fact that... McCormack shook his head to wake himself up. He knew the truth already. Barbara McCormack, would be as devastated as Joseph McCormack felt daily. Because out of all the young people they had built together, every last one of them would now be imprisoned or dead. On takeover day, Nicholas Grant had undone a lifetime of Dr. McCormack's efforts. Now there was only Thomas and the teenagers. His impact on them would be the sum total of his life's work. The phone rang. A regular call, not a video call. When he answered, Kate was wailing. "Sir, things got bad. Very bad." "What happened?" "They found us quicker than we thought," Kate gasped, clearly running as she yelled. "Ewan got what we were after, but it's too late to use it. We're trying to get out, but it doesn't look good. And Alex..." McCormack and Simon stared at each other, like two deer in headlights. "Kate, talk to me." I think Alex is dead. I don't know. He's trapped, unarmed, shot in the shoulder, either dead or captured." McCormack closed his eyes, and the corners of his lips twitched. "That's 21. 21 dead friends since takeover day. 22 including Polly. She would have made a fine underdog." "Kate," he said, "what about the others?" "I think Ewan and Charlie are okay. They're running downstairs to meet Jack. I'm in the stairwell." "Do you need directions?" "No, there's something more important." McCormack's brow ruffled. Nothing in the world could have been more important than his 4 young friends escaping New London. Nonetheless, Kate continued. "I never really knew my granddads. I have 2 grannies, but my granddads died before I could remember them." "I'm sorry, Kate." "You know what this means about you, right?" There was a warbling in Kate's voice, as if she were unintentionally singing a song. "I wish so much that we'd known each other back in the old days. You didn't think less of me for my autism, my anxiety. You didn't mind about the horrible stuff that happened in mainstream." McCormack could have counted the pulse in his wrist without touching it. The words were lovely, but Kate would only have said them if she believed there wouldn't be another chance. The pace and timing of her words suggested she'd been planning this speech for a while. "I came to Spitfire's Rise thinking it was the end of everything, that we'd hide in somebody else's bedrooms for as long as we could, until they found us and killed us. The thought of fighting back never occurred to me. But you turned us into fighters. And somehow, you didn't do it for revenge. This war has always been about other people, thousands of people we've never met. You did that. You made us face our fears and..." McCormack's eyes felt heavy. Tears were coming and there was nothing he could do to stop them. "You're the closest man I've ever had to a granddad. And if I don't get out of here, you had to know before the end. Thank you." It was my pleasure, Kate. "Don't ever forget me. And tell that..." McCormack lurched at the sudden burst of gunfire. Kate gasped and hung up her phone. When McCormack looked down, his blurred eyes were met with the sight of his own tears, staining the crusted map of Floor J. His aged fingernails clawed against his temples, as if trying to attack the hurt inside his head. "Sir?" whispered Simon at his side. "Yes, Simon?" "I think same thing." Okay, new scene. Ewan had not bothered to count the floors from floor J downwards. At least the downward trip was faster, even if their frantic pace made it dangerous. "Jack's waiting for us, right?" Charlie puffed. "I'm down here," came a voice from floor Z. Jack emerged from under the steps as Ewan reached the bottom floor. "Good to see you, mate," Ewan said, giving Jack a well-deserved hand clasp for being in the right place at the right time. "Likewise, did you hear about Kate and..." Ewan dropped his eyes to the floor, more angry than upset. "Yeah, we have to assume he's dead." Ewan had enough experience of awkward conversations to know that silence was about to take over. Then Jack would say something positive as if trying to help. Charlie would shout something angry and impulsive. Ewan would feel the weight of expectation upon him to solve the conflict, and probably blurt something leader-like in order to cover up his own hurt. At that moment, Ewan just couldn't be bothered to deal with it. The probable death of Alex Ginelli was enough. Without waiting, he opened the door into the floor Z corridor and peeked through. "Our exit's somewhere around floor 8, he said. "Just count down numbers as we go." "Ewan," came Kate's voice from his belt, with the voice she often used when fighting a panic attack. "Stairwell 63. Can you wait for me? If not, I don't mind." Her sentence was interrupted by a loud bang as Charlie fired a bullet that zipped past Ewan's face, flew down the corridor, and hit an inquisitive clone in the neck. They did not stay to watch it fall and choke on its artificial blood. An alert had been raised, evidenced by the sound of charging footsteps not far away. The team stumbled towards the opposite end of the corridor, slowed by their own exhaustion. "We're heading towards you anyway," Ewan gasped into the radio. "But you're further north than I am." "North's blocked. We'll regroup where you are and make a plan from there. The run to stairwell 63 was shorter than Ewan had predicted, or maybe time passed quicker when he was being hunted. Kate appeared 100 metres from the stairwell. When they met, she threw her arms around Ewan and then Jack and Charlie in turn. Ewan allowed it, as uncomfortable as it was. She was drenched in tears and her mission partner was dead. Kate threw her stolen rifle to one side, declaring in silence that it was empty. Jack removed a spare pistol and handed it to her. "West," Ewan commanded, "then back up from there." "Ewan," said Jack, "Oliver Roth chased me from the exit. They'll have it guarded." "What, are we out of bullets or something?" Before anybody could reply, the sound of footsteps had returned. "They've caught up," said Charlie redundantly. "Head west, now." The platoon's front clone fired a couple of unsuccessful shots before the team escaped down the next corridor. "He didn't need to hit us. The sound of his gunshots will be heard everywhere." Ewan normally loved being proven right, but he swore under his breath after the next right turn, where a second platoon of clone soldiers had gathered, followed by a third behind them. His last shred of confidence was extinguished by the sight of Oliver Roth. "Surprise, retards!" he yelled, flanked on both sides by a fourth platoon. Charlie opened fire towards him, only for his bullets to be blocked by clone soldiers, who jumped in front of the assassin-like bodyguards under helpless command. Roth grinned and raised his shotgun. Pinned at a four-way junction by the north, east and west sides, Ewan tried to calculate their chances. Could they break through one platoon before the others caught up? How much ammunition would remain if they did? The first platoon released a speed mine. "South," Ewan shouted. "It's bad, but we'll live longer." Kate and Jack wasted no time in obeying, but Charlie shot him a disappointed glare. "Would you rather die now or in a few minutes?" Ewan asked, before firing a bullet into the speed mine and fleeing with his team. The explosion blocked out the next of Ewan's curses. The team was running into a T-junction. When they arrived, they were met by a platoon approaching from the left, another from the right, and the previous swarm of enemies approaching from behind. It was like those zombie movies Ewan used to watch. When a character was cornered, with literally no chance of survival, they would keep firing bullets until they were eaten alive. Ewan understood fighting spirit, but had always assumed those bullets to be a final act of defiance towards the enemy. Now in the same position himself, he knew what it truly meant. It was simple desperation to stay alive for just 10 more seconds. "Take cover," Kate shouted. "Concentrate on one direction and we might clear an exit. Jack, get behind that pillar." Up to that moment, Ewan hadn't noticed the metal pillars at the side of the wall. There was one every 5 metres, lining the length of the corridor as far as he could see. Ewan did not know what they were for and did not care. They were perfect cover for an average-sized human, and would ensure their survival for a little longer. "Oh, bloody hell," shouted Charlie. "Is that what I think it is?" Ewan dared to lean back far enough to peek down the central chamber. The platoon had pushed themselves against the walls to make way for the enormous laser cannon, which trundled down the path with a rumble like a growling tank. It stood almost as tall as the ceiling, its calibre at least 4 feet wide, and it emitted a constant high-pitched whine like an electric shock to the ears. 4 angry figures pushed it along the corridor, one of which was Oliver Roth himself. "It's a laser cannon," shrieked Ewan. "They're actually real." "Not believing in something doesn't stop it from existing, Ewan," yelled Jack from a distance. The appearance of the laser cannon wiped out any hope that Grant wanted them alive. Kate leant out from the pillar with a borrowed handgun. She managed 3 bullets and 1 kill before the remainder of the platoon, in a chorus of automatic weapons, showered their ammunition straight back into the metal pillars. "Grant was nice, building these random shelters for us," said Charlie with a morbid laugh. Ewan could sense the figurative light bulb flickering on above his head. "Wait," he said. "These must have some kind of purpose." "Who gives a crap?" "Me. And these are structural supports." "Charlie, I know where we are." Charlie was facing the oncoming horde, so it was Kate who screamed first. "Ewan, what the hell are you doing?" It was a stupid risk and he knew it, but inaction would have been fatal. Ewan gritted his teeth and charged across to the neighbouring pillar, passing the firing line of the laser cannon. As he leapt across the T-junction like a pouncing cat, there came a yell from Oliver Roth and an almighty electric boom. A 4-foot circle of light flew down the corridor and smacked against the wall, where it produced a near-deafening crackle, and a concave crater in the area it had struck. Chunks of reinforced concrete spilled out into the corridor. "Ewan, seriously," yelled Kate from beside him. "What the hell are you up to?" "Roth wants to kill us, even if it means trashing the place," Ewan answered, leaping behind the nearest pillar. "Let's give him the chance." His friends spent ineffective bullets on the platoons closest to them. Ewan joined in, but only long enough to hear the electric whine of the laser cannon again. Half a minute to recharge. That should be enough. Enough for what? An escape. Ewan played the same trick twice, and Roth was angry enough to fall for it. Again. On Ewan's second leap, the laser circle missed him by less than half a foot, and the explosion against the far wall threw him against the firing line of the approaching platoons. Ewan ignored the dizziness and sudden pain in his ears, and as Charlie dragged him by the shoulder behind the safety of the pillar, he turned his head to observe his work. Natural sunlight poured into the corridors of Floor Z. Ewan laughed aloud. He had been proven right again, but for the first time that day it felt good. They had run so far through the outer city walls that the world's largest prison lay just a few feet away. The fresh hole in the wall revealed the inner city, the incarcerated population of London, and a fighting chance of survival. "Guys," Ewan shouted, "we've got less than half a minute. Let's bail." Charlie was the first to scramble for the giant hole. Jack followed and shrieked halfway through, his hands touching the laser-heated metal. Note to self, don't use bare hands to escape. Charlie and Jack took the plunge and fell out of view. A moment later, Kate started to yell. Jack's handgun was already empty. A familiar whining buzz emanated from the south corridor. "Go, Kate." Kate did not need telling twice. The control panel of the laser cannon displayed the all-important green LED, but Oliver Roth was too late to fire a third shot. Ewan and Kate tumbled through the hole together and leapt headfirst into uncharted territory. Which seems like a great place to leave it. That is the end of chapter 12. The Underdogs have just stumbled into the biggest prison known to man. In chapter 13, you're going to find out exactly what that prison looks like and feels like, and exactly how much of a nightmare it is. Now, got a comment from James in answer to the discussion question, what books have had an impact on you? After reading The Knife and Never Letting Go, I really need to read that book. I didn't speak for about a week. After reading The Curious Incidents of the Dog in the Nighttime, I cried and felt like the transition to tears was somehow slowed down, if you know what I mean. Funnily enough, The Curious Incidents of the Dog in the Nighttime, I know opinions are quite divided within the autism community about that book, but it was 2010 when I read it, and I couldn't do anything for several days after that. For the first time since the Bible, I'd read a book that just, it felt like it explained me. And yeah, I know that Mark Haddon isn't autistic himself, but a lot of the things he wrote about Christopher's experience, that resonated with me surprisingly well. And Maria got literal chills while listening, which is a massive compliment. Thank you very much. If anyone happened to be wearing a Fitbit, just like Julie did, please tell me what your pulse went up to. As I think the record is, I don't know. Was it 104 or 140? I really should remember, because there's a huge difference between those numbers. I think it might have been 140. But anyway, that's just about it. If you're not watching this live, feel free to leave comments at the end of it anyway, if you've not already stopped watching by this point, because I do check these threads and respond to comments even after this has been live. But thank you very much, and I'll see you at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Bye.